Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to just have a little talk about something that's been I don't know why. I get things stuck in my head and I start thinking about them for days on end, and it's just the joy of my brain and how it works. But today I wanted to talk about the modern day tool store. Okay, so I'm thinking about things, I was in a conversation with someone about tools and stuff when I was a kid.
Tools, duct tape, zip ties, and gloves. I have to have my tools.
And I can remember back, I've been using tools since I can remember. I think the earliest memory I have is maybe like 6th grade, middle school. We had like a tool shed in my backyard where I grew up, and I converted it into like a bicycle shop. And on Sundays, I would go, it was our garbage day, I would go around Sunday nights and find anybody that threw away a bicycle, and I would grab it and drag it home. And the garage behind, the area behind my garage, or our garage, looked like a used bike junkyard. It was horrible. There was stuff everywhere. But I would start taking those bicycles into this little tool shed I had, and I made this like makeshift, workshop back there, and I would rip these bikes down and rip them apart, and I'd build these like cool monstrosity bikes. I had like this long chopper thing. A friend of mine had one that was like, his like seat came way back below or over top of the back seat where he could like pop wheelies and stuff. We put like a wheelie bar on it. It was cool. We did a lot of cool stuff. And that was, my middle school, right? We, and somewhat into high school, we did that stuff, and we'd build these like custom bicycles, and, given back, if you look back at them, the quality was probably horrible, but, we're 6th grade. So it was cool to us at the time, and I really liked that. And that was like my intro into tools. Started to work with tools. And I started off with some like real cheap tools, like I think they were called All Trade at the time. They were just real cheap kind of junk tools. So as I got more into it and stuff, I found the world of Craftsman, right? Craftsman tools at the time was sold by Sears, and it was just like the toy store for people who worked with tools, right? It was the place to go. So go to Sears, you go to the Craftsman section. It was just aisles and aisles and aisles of hand tools made by Craftsman. They were guaranteed for life. If you ever broke one, you take it back in, they give you a replacement for free. It was just cool. You could go there, you could physically pick up the tool, you could look at it, you could, feel what it felt like in your hand and stuff. And I bought a lot of Craftsman tools. I would mow lawns and stuff. I would do what I had to do to make money at the time, and then beg my mom or someone to take me up to Sears, or whatever time. Every time she went to Sears to get something, I'd always offer to come with her because, I get to go to the tool section and buy some new tools. So over the years, Craftsman tools, I amassed a large amount of these. This wrench here is just a 1-inch Craftsman wrench. I've probably had this now for well over 20 years, more than that, probably almost 30 years to be honest. I've had this tool for a long time, and it still works great. There's a little surface rust on it, and it's a little tacky from grease and dust over the years and stuff. Could probably use a cleaning, but I bet if I took some steel wool to this and shined it up with a little WD-40, it would look the same it looked the day I bought it off the shelf. So Craftsman over the years has kind of gone under, right? Sears is no more, it's no longer a thing. There's no going in and picking out your tools. So I started thinking, and I was having this conversation, I'm like, what is the modern day tool store? Sears and Craftsman, that was the tool store back then. You could still buy other tools. There were still other companies out there that made these tools, these like All Trade tools, and these kind of cheaper, cheap stuff that you'd use it a few times and one of the things would pop off or snap off. It was just kind of cheap cast aluminum. but Sears was like, Craftsman was like the tool, you know. And to this day, it still kind of is, but they've fallen to the wayside a bit. I feel like Sears is now gone, so you can't go in and like feel them the way you used to. I think Kmart for a while picked them up before Kmart went out of business and stuff. So Craftsman has had like some bad luck when it comes to, you know, stuff like that. I feel like they've moved away from like hand tools so much lately. You can still find them. They're still out there. But like the tool store of my day is gone now. There's no like, if you do go in and you find Craftsman tools, they're usually in a set in like some kind of box or packaged plastic and stuff where you can't feel the tool. I do have, for an example, so as an example, this was a Craftsman screwdriver, just flathead screwdriver of, you know, when I grew up. Is a good tool. Still have it today, still works great. This is like the modern day Craftsman screwdriver. I've got this a few years ago, I think for Father's Day, because I was like, my screwdrivers are starting to these things get beat up. I really misuse these things, but, you know, and this is what they offer now. And side by side, they're fine, right? The handles are, I guess, a little more ergonomic and stuff, but it just doesn't have that same panache that this had. And, you know, I don't know why. So that's where Craftsman is kind of turned into. So I kind of feel like Craftsman has moved away from the modern day tool store to just kind of, again, like some prepackaged sets you can buy, and it's okay, but it's just not what it was. So what is the modern day tool store now? I started thinking about it, and my first reaction was, when you think of real high quality tools right now, you think Snap-on, right? I have one Snap-on tool, maybe more, I don't know, but this is the one I can think of. I have one Snap-on screwdriver. I have had this since I was in high school. I did not buy this screwdriver. I think I acquired it.
And they stole. You stole.
From some friend or something at some point. And I got the screwdriver. To be honest, you guys have seen this in other videos. This is my favorite screwdriver. Partly because I do know where it came from, and it has like memory, sentimental value type kind of a thing to me. So this is my favorite screwdriver, but and you can see I use the hell out of it. It's beat to hell, but this is the only Snap-on tool I have, because and if you have never bought Snap-on tools before, they are stupid expensive. They're just ridiculous in the pricing that they have for these things. So if Snap-on is the epitome of tools, why don't they have tool stores where you can go in and do that? I think a lot of that is in part to just the modern day consumer doesn't go to stores much anymore. We buy everything online now, right? So Snap-on has kept its price point high because it's kind of elusive. The only way you can get it is have the mystical Snap-on truck come to your business, and then you go in the truck, and it's a show, man. Like, you go in there and they've got all these tools and they're all on display and they all look great and stuff, and you end up owing the Snap-on truck just thousands and thousands of dollars for hundreds of dollars worth of tools. So, you know, what is the modern man? What is the average consumer that's not a full-time mechanic? What does he do for tools, right? He goes to Harbor Freight now. Harbor Freight has become the business or the tool store for the everyday man now. It's the only brick and mortar store for buying tools anymore. And I have found myself going to Harbor Freight more and more and more for tools lately. However, they have a stigma about them because most of their stuff is made in China and is usually lower quality, right? That's the stigma, is that, oh, Harbor Freight tools you buy, they're like one-time use and throw them away kind of things. So I went into Harbor Freight with that mentality. Their tools are usually priced very cheap. Here's some examples, right? I started looking the other night at examples to compare some tools between Harbor Freight and Snap-on. There's a set of Snap-on pliers and a set of Harbor Freight pliers. Same pliers, essentially. Look at the price point difference, right? You have a set of Harbor Freight screwdrivers and a set of Snap-on screwdrivers. Yeah, there's the closest I can find, both with magnetic tips, very similar to each other. Look at the difference, right? And they're for screwdrivers. So like the price of these screwdrivers, right? I could take the Harbor Freight screwdrivers and beat the living hell out of them. I could snap them, pry with them, do whatever I want, just mangle them to hell. And I could go buy several sets of these for the price of one of these. So if I'm not using these tools every single day and I'm just not abusing them, I guess over time, if you're a mechanic or something like that and you're constantly using these tools and you need that reliability out of them, Snap-on's the way to go, right? But for the average guy working in his garage, Harbor Freight is the answer, right? Another example, look at these dead blow hammers. Same hammer. Look at the difference in pricing. It's ridiculous, and it's the same stuff. It's all of that stigma of, I don't want Harbor Freight because it's cheap. Well, it's cheap, but you could buy it cheap. But the things that I have bought from there, and granted, there is some stuff there that is just, you can look at it and be like, yeah, I'm going to use that once and that's going to break. But if it's that weird one-off tool that you only need one time, that big giant like 3.5-inch socket or something that you need to pull this big spanner nut off something, and you used it once in 10 years, don't go buy the $600 socket. Buy the $10 one at Harbor Freight and use it once. And if it breaks, big deal. You know what I mean? But like, here are some of the things that I have bought from Harbor Freight recently. These chisels, right? I think these, what were these, $9? You put a little bit of effort into them and you've got a chisel for life, right? This knife was, I can't remember now, $8 or $12 or something. We put this thing through hell. We did the hardest survival test we could think of on this thing, and it just kept going. I mean, it lost its edge retention and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's a $12 knife, right? I think $12. You know, and it took all of 3 minutes to put this back on some sharpening stones and get it back to shaving sharp. These I bought the other day. These are just some flush cut little mini nippers to, like, when you cut off like zip ties and things and you want them flush and you don't want that like sharp edge. I think I paid $1.99 for these and they work great, you know, and I don't use them that much. I'll throw them in my toolbox, and for the few times I use them, they're perfect. They got good rubber grips. They don't fall out of your hands. They're cool. These clamps. Paul Sellers uses these clamps. He's like a woodworking god, right? He uses these clamps. Now he modifies them, and I'm going to show a video how he does that. He modifies them slightly, but I've been using these clamps for my woodworking projects, and they work amazing. Like, they're great. They don't flex. They don't have any problems. They're good bar clamps, you know, and I've got small ones. I've got large ones back there. I've got a ton of these things, and they're cheap. And so instead of buying one clamp that's like $40, I can buy 10 clamps for $40. It's just, I don't know if that pricing is real or not, but it's something like that. It's just, you could buy a ton of these things for a low price. So instead of having one clamp and then you're using other things to try to get things to work, you can have a good amount of clamps when you're doing woodworking project. We found these little mini planes. These were kind of a novelty thing, but we put 20 minutes worth of work into it, and we ended up with a pretty decent little edge tool that you can like do little chamfers on and do a little cleanup work when we're chopping tenons and things. This little bench plane was horrible. So here's one of the examples of things that, you know, some stuff I wouldn't buy. This wasn't a bad plane. It just had some issues with the way it was designed that I think if we spent some time, we could fix. I do have a plan to convert this into a scrub plane soon. Hopefully we'll get to that eventually, but I've kept it because I think it has a use, right? The heat gun we just bought. Like there's just countless examples of things that Harbor Freight offers that you can buy at cheap prices where you're not just breaking the bank. Somebody that's starting out in their garage that wants to use hand tools can't afford, snap-on tools right now. Everything obviously in the economy is weird at the moment. So, pinching your pennies where it counts matters right now. And if you're that guy that's in his garage that's making crafts or doing things or building things to make some extra side money or whatever, you got an Etsy store working at your garage, you need tools. You need things to be able to do that. I can't speak for most things. By the time I found Harbor Freight in my adulthood or whatever, I'd already amassed a large amount of lifetime tools, these Craftsman tools. But over the years, I've needed things. I've needed additional tools as my hobbies have changed and I've learned new stuff. So I found Harbor Freight. And so far, yes, there is some cheap stuff there. But so far, I haven't found any evidence that Harbor Freight is just the worst tools ever. You're just going to throw them away right away. So far, I haven't had anything from Harbor Freight actually break on me. And I'm pretty hard on tools. I'm sure there are rules, exceptions to the rule out there, and things do break from time to time. But I was talking the last time to them, about like, hey, the stigma of Harbor Freight and stuff. And he's like, yeah, some stuff is cheap. He said, but usually anything, he goes, what I find is the Hercules brand of tools, this like heat gun, which is why I bought it. He said, they never come back. They're never returned. They never have issues with them. So I'm like, okay, maybe and Hercules I think is kind of more of their higher end brand. So you do pay a little bit more for them. But in the end, you get a higher quality tool that's going to last, and you're still massively under what that tool would cost you off the Snap-on truck. I don't know how they compare to other tools. Like, I think there's like, I don't know what Lowe's brand is. I always want to say Klondike or Kodiak or something. I don't know what it's called. I don't have any of them. I've never used them. I have a bunch of like all trade tools still, like little junk stuff. But I've acquired a bunch of tools over the years, and I'm starting to mix more Harbor Freight tools into the fold as I'm getting older. And, I'm realizing that the quality's kind of there. It's good. It's decent stuff. It does have a different feel about it, right? Like feeling this chisel, right? For example, this cheap kind of woodworking chisel out of the box, it feels cheap, right? It's got real harsh edges on things. The finish on the wood handles is not the best. It's kind of rough in your hands. It's got some hot spots. There's a ton of machining, edges on it and stuff. But we took that, like I said, with an hour worth of work, we took this chisel and turned it into something like this. We've got a cool little butt chisel now that feels amazing in your hand, and this feels like a high-end chisel to me. This feels like if you were to pick up a Stanley Sweetheart or like a Two Cherries or something you're gonna pay hundreds of dollars for one chisel for. We paid, $2 or $3 or something? I can't remember the price we broke this down to. But it was like something stupid cheap. And we were able to buy, make this tool out of this. So you're buying tools, you're already in your garage, you want to do stuff, right? You like tinkering. Buy some Harbor Freight tools and make better, and then you'll end up with a tool that you'll really enjoy using and still works really well, but you didn't break the bank to do it. So that's kind of my thoughts, the thoughts where I've been going with that lately is Harbor Freight as bad as we think it is? I don't think so, and like I said, I haven't had the experience to be able to use a lot of their tools, but I go in the store right? I'm able to go in the store and pick up the tools and feel most of them. You know, some of them are in plastic packaging and stuff, but you know, like you can go over and buy a wrench and hold it. You can go pick up a screwdriver or a hammer or whatever and hold it in your hand and feel what it feels like in your hand. And that, to me, is something I've been missing from the tool store of today. There are no tool stores but Harbor Freight. I need that brick and mortar. And then maybe that's like, you know, okay boomer stuff for me.
Hey, Old Man River, zip it or I'll break your hip.
But like, I don't enjoy, I buy a lot of Amazon things online, right? But like, there's certain things that you get a better feeling when you can go in, pick it up, feel it in your hand. Yep, this is it. And you take it home with you. Just something about that is cool. And Harbor Freight answers that question or that desire, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you're looking to get into tools, if you're new and you're starting to amass a collection of tools and you've got stuff everywhere and people are giving you little sets of things and stuff for Christmas, and you want to start collecting more tools so that you can do more things with them, start becoming more self-sufficient, working on your own car, building crafts in your garage, doing stuff like that. You want to learn that stuff, don't discount Harbor Freight. Don't take the stigma of Harbor Freight is cheap junk, don't buy it, go, you know, wherever. Make that decision for yourself. Go in there, pick them up, feel the tools, take one home, use it for a little while, see what you think. You know, it's been a struggle for me to get over that stigma of Harbor Freight is cheap junk, right? Every tool I buy, I usually come home with, well, I used it a couple times, and then I start using it, and I'm really impressed by it, you know? So, yeah, that's it for today. If you like this type of content, subscribe down below. I'm really interested to know what you think about tools. Do you go to Harbor Freight? What have you bought from there? Have you been disappointed yet? You know, I'm sure there are, you know, 1 in 100s out there, or maybe 1 in 50s or whatever. You know, I'm sure their quality control's not the best because they do crank this stuff out pretty fast. But if you take the time to sort through them, find that good tool, you might be impressed with what you find. So anyway, also, in case you missed the video, a lot of people watched it, but nobody's commenting on it so far. Check out the video I posted last week about the Kanai bags. I'm giving away Kanai bags to you for free, for nothing but just a comment and a subscription. So go check that out and get a chance to win, because right now there's only a few people that have commented and they're like guaranteed shoo-ins. And as much as I want to give them those bags or whatever, I want to give the bags away to someone, I still want it to be a competition. So go check it out. The bags are super cool. I'll do some more videos upcoming that are like more up close shots of it and what they can fit in it and stuff. But they're super cool and I've got to get rid of them. So go check that out. Comment in there as well. That's it for today. I'll see you on the next one.